The planet Zirella was quiet on the maps. Green, peaceful, marked as rich in oxygen, low in life-threatening activity. But the humans were wrong. The planet screamed. Only few ever heard it, and most of them never returned. Corvin Hale, a lone human explorer, walked through the thick jungle with a scanner in one hand and a blade on his back. He was here for rare plants, samples that paid well in the black markets. His boots sank slightly in the soft ground. Strange flowers blinked open and shut around him like watching eyes. Creepy place, he muttered under his breath. He checked his path again. His ship was 2 hours behind him. The jungle ahead was darker now, thick, green, and glowing in some parts. Long vines hung from the trees like sleeping snakes. That's when he heard it, a scream. Soft, faint, distant. He paused. His helmet's audio caught it again, like a cry for help carried by the wind. Corvin turned slowly, raising his scanner. That wasn't an animal. He stepped carefully toward the sound. The deeper he walked, the stranger the forest became. The trees leaned in unnaturally. The vines on the ground moved slightly, like they were breathing. The air felt warm, heavy. The leaves above shimmered with an eerie purple light. Then he heard it again. Help. Please. This time it was clear. A voice. Female. Scared. Corvin quickened his steps, pushing through a thick wall of leaves. He stepped into a hidden glade and stopped, shocked. At the center of the clearing, a tall alien girl was suspended in the air by dozens of glowing green vines. They wrapped around her arms, her legs, even her neck. Her body was limp, but her eyes were wide with fear. She wasn't just caught. She was trapped. Corvin stepped forward. Hey, I'm here. Her eyes flicked toward him. She gasped. The vines tightened. She made a choking sound. Corvin's brain raced. These vines weren't just plants, they reacted to sound. Quiet. Okay, he whispered, raising his hands. I won't speak loud. He crouched, studying the vines. They pulsed with green light. One wrapped around her ankle twitched, slightly, as if it had a mind of its own. He slowly reached for the blade on his back. The girl looked at him again, eyes pleading. He nodded slowly. I'll get you out. Corvin moved silently, stepping carefully through the glade. He counted the vines, 6 holding her up, 2 wrapped tighter around her neck and waist. He started with the ones on her legs. He pressed his blade against the thickest one, and with one clean motion, sliced. The vine hissed like a snake and jerked back. The girl winced, but the grip loosened. Then all the other vines woke up. They twisted, snapped, and lunged toward Corvin. He rolled back just in time, blade raised. So it's gonna be like that, huh? He dodged another vine and slashed through it. The girl dropped slightly, hanging now by only her arms and waist. She groaned, weak. Corvin activated the sonic pulse on his wrist, usually used to scare off small beasts. Tss. The pulse burst out, making the vines freeze for just a second. That was enough. He ran forward and cut the last 2 vines holding her arms. The girl fell right into his arms. She was light. Her skin was soft with a faint glow. Her hair was long and silver. Her eyes fluttered shut. Corvin didn't wait. He threw her over his shoulder and ran. Behind him, the vines screamed. Yes, screamed. A high-pitched, angry shriek that filled the trees and echoed across the jungle. By the time he reached the edge of the forest, Corvin's legs were burning. His camp was just ahead, a small dome with basic defense shields. He rushed inside, slammed the door, and collapsed onto the floor, still holding the girl. The vines didn't follow. Not yet. Later, under warm light, he checked her pulse. Alive. Breathing. Skin glowing faintly. The scanner couldn't match her species. Unknown. Possibly undocumented. She opened her eyes slowly, blinking. You heard me? She asked, her voice weak. Corvin gave a small nod. Yeah, lucky for both of. Oh, she looked at him for a long moment, then whispered, You shouldn't have come. Before he could ask why, she passed out again. Corvin stared at her, the vines still screaming in his memory. He didn't know who she was, or what had tried to eat her. But one thing was clear. That forest wasn't done. And now, it wanted her back. The girl didn't move for hours. Corvin sat across the room, watching. His dome-shaped camp was small, lit by soft yellow lamps, with tools and supplies stacked neatly on metal shelves. The jungle outside was quiet now. Too quiet. The vines had gone still, but Corvin didn't trust silence anymore. He checked her vitals again. Still stable, body temperature a bit high, skin faintly glowing. Her breathing soft, almost like she was asleep underwater. She was beautiful in a strange way, tall, slender, skin pale like starlight. Her hair was long, silver, and tangled with tiny pieces of broken vine. She didn't look like a warrior, but something told Corvin she wasn't ordinary either. Suddenly she moved. Her eyes snapped open. Corvin didn't get up. He kept his hands visible. It's okay, he said gently. You're safe here. Her glowing eyes locked onto him. She sat up slowly, confused, her back against the wall. The vines, she whispered, voice shaking. I cut them, Corvin said. Got you out. Barely. She looked at her hands like she wasn't sure they were still hers. You shouldn't have saved me. He blinked. Excuse me? You don't understand, she said. The forest, it doesn't let go. If it releases someone, it takes something back. Corvin frowned. Well, it's not getting you again. Not while I'm here. She looked down, her expression unreadable. Took a breath. Do you have a name? She nodded slowly. Valari, he repeated it. Valari. All right, I'm Corvin. She touched her neck. No collar. Corvin tilted his head. Were you a prisoner? Valari looked up. No, worse. I was a sacrifice. She explained in pieces. Slow, cautious words. Her people once lived in harmony with the forest. Deep, inside the jungles of Shirella. They could feel the plants, speak to them through a kind of biolink. But something changed. The forest turned. It began consuming anyone who tried to connect. Roots became traps. Trees became watchers. The village, elders believed the jungle was sick, corrupted, and it needed balance. So they made a choice. One child would be given to the vines, not killed exactly, but offered. Valari was that child. I was born with a stronger link than the others, she said. They feared I would draw the forest's anger, or worse, its hunger. Corvin sat in stunned silence. So they tied you up and left you? She didn't answer, but the look in her eyes said everything. Corvin stood and walked to a shelf. He poured a cup of warm nutrient broth and handed it to her. She hesitated, then took it with both hands and drank slowly. Thanks, she whispered. He nodded. We're not done yet. That thing out there, it screamed when I took you. Valari looked at him with worry. It remembers. You touched the vines. That means you're marked now. Marked how? They know your scent. Your voice, your skin, you are part of its memory now. Corvin smirked slightly. Well, I've been called worse. She didn't smile. I'm serious, she said. It will wait. Watch. Then it will come. Corvin leaned back in his chair, eyes scanning his small camp. Then we prepare. That night, Valari sat by the heater, wrapped in a thermal blanket. She stared at the flickering light, hands curled against her chest. Corvin worked on sealing the outer walls, reinforcing the dome with his emergency kit. What do the vines want? He asked finally. She spoke without turning. They want control. They are connected to something beneath the forest. Something very old. Is it a creature? It is the jungle's heart, a root mind, no eyes, no voice, just hunger. Corvin looked down. Then I cut it. Valari finally looked at him. You don't understand. This planet, it breathes through the forest. If you fight it, you fight the world itself. He shrugged. Sounds like a challenge. She watched him for a long time, then said quietly, You are not like the others. Corvin paused. What others? The ones who walked past when I screamed. A heavy silence filled the camp. She added, barely a whisper, You were the only one who stopped. As Corvin dimmed the lights, Valari lay down near the heater. She closed her eyes, but her lips moved in a soft whisper. Language unknown. A prayer? A warning? He didn't ask. But as he lay in his bunk, staring at the curved ceiling, one thought echoed in his mind. She wasn't the only one in danger anymore. Now, they were both part of the forest's memory, and memories don't die quietly. The wind didn't move the trees that night, but they moved anyway. Corvin was halfway through cleaning his rifle when he heard it, a soft knock. Not on the camp door, on the wall, on the outer dome, just behind his supply crates. Tap, tap, tap. He froze. Then it came again. A second knock, this time from the roof. He set the rifle down and walked slowly to the door. Outside, the jungle was still. No animals, no movement, but the leaves were shifting. Not from wind, from something else. Something watching. Inside, Valari sat cross-legged near the heater. Her eyes were closed. Her hands were open, palms glowing faintly. Corvin stepped toward her. Are you sensing something? She opened her eyes slowly. It's awake now, she whispered. What is? The forest. The root mind. It knows you're sheltering me. It's searching. He tightened his grip on his knife. Well, let it knock. I'm not opening the door. You don't have to. She looked at the walls. It's already inside. Corvin blinked. What? Just then the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then died. Red emergency lights kicked on. Corvin grabbed his flashlight and aimed it at the back corner. His supply crates had shifted. Not fallen. Moved. He stepped closer. That's when he saw it. A thin vine, sliding slowly through the air vent. It slithered along the wall like a finger, sensing, searching. Valari's voice was urgent. Now, don't touch it. Corvin pointed his rifle. Don't shoot it either, she said. Why not? If you hurt a finger, the body responds. Too late. Corvin fired. The vine shrieked. Yes, shrieked. And whipped violently back through the vent. The entire dome groaned. Outside, trees creaked. The ground shook slightly beneath their feet. Valari stood up fast. It knows where we are now. It's coming. Within minutes, the perimeter alarm screamed. Dozens of motion markers triggered all at once. Every side, every direction. Corvin pulled up the external cameras. The jungle was moving, not in waves, not in wind, but in circles, spirals, patterns. Trees bent as vines slithered over the ground like hunting animals. Leaves fell upward. The soil cracked in lines that glowed faint green. It's surrounding us, he said. Like it's alive. Valari was pale now. Because it is. She closed her eyes, placed her hands on the floor and whispered something in her language. Then, her body jolted. Her eyes opened wide. What did you see? Corvin asked. I saw myself. Buried, she said. Wrapped in roots. The forest is showing me a future. Its future, it wants me back. Corvin shook his head. No chance. We need to move. We can't stay here. Where? She paused. There's a tower, a long-range signal tower. Old, broken, but maybe enough to send a call for help. Coordinates? I can guide you. Corvin nodded. Then we leave now. As they gathered supplies, the vines hit the outer shield. Thud, thud, cree-eek. The dome held, but it wouldn't hold forever. Corvin tossed Valari a small energy pistol. She caught it with steady hands. "You ever used one of these?" he asked. She checked the charge level and flipped off the safety. "Once, when I escaped the training center." Corvin raised an eyebrow. "Training?" She looked away. "They were trying to teach us how to serve, how to act, how to obey." He didn't press further. Instead, he set the exit timer. 30 seconds. They waited by the door. 10 seconds. The vines slapped the glass now. Angry. Hungry. 5 seconds. Valari gripped his arm tightly. "They remember your face, they'll follow you." "Then I'll make sure they remember mine in flames," he said. The door hissed open. The jungle screamed. They ran into the darkness, Corvin's flashlight cutting through the fog. Vines reached from trees above. Roots tried to trip them from below. But Valari moved like she knew the path, even blind, even hunted. She pointed left. "That way." Corvin followed. Suddenly, a vine wrapped around his ankle. He fell hard. The rifle slid from his hand. The vine began to pull. Valari turned, eyes glowing. "No." She knelt, placed her hand on the vine, and whispered. The vine twitched. Then it froze. Corvin stared as it shriveled, turned black, and cracked like old wood. He pulled free. "How did you do that?" "I remembered how to speak to it," she said. Just for a moment. They kept moving, and behind them, the forest whispered louder. As they reached a ridge, the jungle behind them lit up with green veins, glowing cracks that pulsed in rhythm, like a heartbeat. Valari looked back. "It's not just angry anymore," she whispered. "It's afraid." Corvin raised his rifle. "Good." She turned to him. "No. That means it's going to be worse." The trees no longer stood still. They watched. Corvin and Valari moved through the thickest part of the jungle, branches clawing at their clothes like fingers trying to pull them back. The soil below their boots was no longer firm. It pulsed gently like skin over a heartbeat. Something beneath the surface was alive, and it was following them. Every few steps, Corvin paused to listen. He could hear it now. Not vines, not leaves, but roots, slithering just beneath the ground. They didn't run anymore. They hunted. "We're getting close," Valari said, pointing ahead. In the distance, a crumbling tower of silver metal poked above the treetops. It was half covered in moss, leaning to one side. Vines wrapped around its legs like it was being pulled into the earth. "That the signal tower?" Corvin asked. "Yes, but it hasn't worked for years. We'll have to fix it." "Great," Corvin muttered. "Nothing's ever easy." Suddenly the ground shifted. A thick root burst from the soil and whipped toward Corvin's leg. He jumped back just in time. Another root shot upward, then another. Dozens now, all rising, curling, surrounding them. Corvin raised his rifle and fired. The shot blasted one root in half, but two more replaced it. "They're faster now," he shouted. Valari held out her hands. Her fingers glowed faint blue. "Keep them off me, I'll hold them back." "What are you gonna do?" "I'm going to speak to it again, but louder." While Corvin fought, blasting roots, dodging their swings, Valari knelt on the forest floor. Her eyes glowed. She touched both hands to the dirt. She inhaled slowly, and then exhaled light. The jungle responded. The trees shook violently. The vines screamed, yes, screamed, a high-pitched sound like metal scraping metal. And then, from the ground behind her, something huge rose. Corvin stopped firing. A massive shape was forming, dark, wide, and made entirely of bark, vines, and stone. It had no true face, but within its tangled mass, Corvin saw outlines of eyes, mouths, skulls, dozens of faces twisted in pain and frozen inside the bark. "What the hell is that?" Valari's voice trembled. "It's called the heart root. It's the mind beneath the jungle." The creature lifted a massive arm of wood and lashed it forward. Corvin jumped aside as the ground where he stood exploded into flying dirt and roots. He yelled, "You didn't say it had arms!" Valari stood slowly, her body glowing brighter than ever. I didn't remember until now. The creature roared, a sound deep and low, like thunder inside the earth. Roots burst from its feet, racing toward them like living tentacles. Corvin ran to Valari and grabbed her arm. "We can't fight that. I can't run anymore," she said. She stepped forward. The heart root paused. Valari lifted her arms, glowing from her palms to her shoulders. She spoke, not to Corvin, but in her old language, words ancient, echoing with power. The roots around them trembled. Corvin watched, heart pounding. "What is she doing?" he whispered. Then he saw it. The creature hesitated. Its roots retracted slightly. The faces in its bark turned away. Valari stepped closer, hands still glowing. "I was born to bond with you," she said softly, as if to the monster. "But you turned away. You broke the link. You let fear guide you." The heart root roared, again, louder. Valari dropped to her knees, her glow flared like a sun. And then she touched the earth. Corvin watched as the jungle around them froze. Every leaf, every vine, every creeping root, still. Then a wave of white-blue light shot out. From Valari's body, it spread across the trees, into the soil, over the tower, through the heart root's massive form. The creature groaned, not in pain, but in grief. Valari's voice shook. "You killed your children because you were afraid they'd outgrow you." Cracks formed in the heart root's bark. Old faces turned to dust, roots sagged, the great body crumbled, piece by piece. It fell. When it was over, the jungle was silent. Valari collapsed into Corvin's arms. He held her gently, brushing the dirt from her face. "What did you do?" "I showed it. The truth. The pain. My pain. It couldn't hold that weight anymore." "You made it feel guilt?" She nodded, weakly. Corvin looked around. The jungle no longer felt like a trap. It felt like a graveyard. He lifted her carefully and walked the final steps to the signal tower. Together. Even as roots hissed far below, now quieter, weaker. The forest had fallen quiet again. But this time, not from watching, from mourning. The tower loomed above them, covered in vines like an old god swallowed by time. Corvin carried Valari in his arms as he stepped over tangled roots and broken stone. She was conscious, but barely. Her head rested against his chest. Her skin no longer glowed. The forest was quiet now, not dead, but waiting. He reached the tower's base and kicked open a rusted access hatch. Inside, the air was dry and still. Dust floated like ash. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, not human, not machine, but something older. Valari stirred. "This place, it remembers us." Corvin set her down gently on a bench and looked around. "This was yours?" She nodded weakly. "Long ago, before it all turned dark." The control panel was cracked, half fused with moss, but Corvin saw something under the vines, a sliding compartment. He pulled it open and froze. Inside was a faded mural, carved deep into crystal. It showed a tall, glowing woman, like Valari, standing with her arms outstretched. Around her were trees, vines, birds, light, but in the next section, the trees turned black. The vines wrapped around the woman. She was lifted into the air, screaming. Corvin ran his fingers over the image. "They knew," he whispered. "They saw it coming." Valari's voice was soft behind him. This was the last safe tower. A memory stone was kept here. Before, the forest forgot who we were. He turned. "Then we're going to make it remember." He powered up the console using his external battery. Sparks flew, but a dim light blinked green. "Signal's weak," he muttered. "But I think I can get a burst transmission out." Valari walked over, still unsteady. She reached out and placed her hand against the crystal mural. The moment she touched it, the wall lit up. Images moved, glowed. Ancient recordings, stored in the stone, came to life. Corvin stared in awe. It wasn't just a mural, it was a living archive. They watched together as a scene played out. A council of Valari elders stood before the first vines, green, bright, beautiful. "These roots link us to the world," an elder said. "We feed it, and it feeds us." Then another scene, experiments. Scientists tampering with the roots, trying to control the jungle, turn it into a weapon. "We must teach it obedience," one said. Valari's hand trembled. These weren't our leaders. They were the ones who betrayed the balance. The final scene was worse. Children, Valari children, offered to the vines, labeled as bonded specimens, left alone. Never returned. Valari closed her eyes. They said we were protectors. But in the end, they made us sacrifices. Corvin clenched his fists. This whole jungle, it wasn't cursed. It was angered. He opened the broadcast channel and began recording. "If anyone can hear this," he said, "this planet isn't just another wild world. It's alive. And we broke it." He turned the camera toward Valari. She didn't speak at first. Then, "My name is Valari. I was meant to guide this forest, not be fed to it. I survived not because I was strong, but because one human listened." She placed her hand on Corvin's shoulder. "We are not your enemies. We are your roots." The signal bar blinked. Transmitting. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the tower. The forest was reacting again. Corvin checked the radar. "We've got movement. Beneath us." Valari's eyes widened. "The roots under this tower, they're ancient. They're not dead. They're awakening." "Let's go," Corvin said. He grabbed the battery, slung it on his back, and helped Valari to her feet. But before they could exit, part of the floor collapsed. They fell into darkness. They landed in a wide underground cavern. Roots snaked across every wall. At the center stood a tall, broken statue of a Valari woman, half consumed by bark. In her hands, another crystal, pulsing weakly. Valari stepped forward slowly. "This was the first guardian," she whispered. Corvin shone his light around. "Is this where it started?" "No," she said. "This is where it forgot." She approached the statue and touched the crystal. A wave of blue light spread through the room. The roots trembled, but didn't attack. "They're listening," she said. Corvin placed a hand on the wall. "Then let's remind them who you are." As Valari glowed brighter, the statue glowed too. The vines pulled back from the walls. Leaves sprouted. Flowers bloomed instantly. Above them, the jungle trembled. Not in fear, but in recognition. For the first time in years, the forest remembered its guardian. The jungle above was changing, not dying, not alive, something in between. Deep underground, the roots had pulled back. The old chamber now glowed, blue, lit by the crystal in the statue's hands and the soft light shining from Valari's skin. Corvin stood at the edge of the cavern, rifle in one hand, the other holding the power cell from the broken signal tower. He was ready to run. Ready to fight. Ready to burn the whole jungle down if it meant getting them out alive. But Valari, she stood still, eyes closed, palms open, breathing slowly. She wasn't scared anymore. She was listening. "The forest is waking," she said at last, her voice calm. Corvin stepped closer. "Is it still angry?" "It's confused, lost, but not angry. Not now." He pointed to the statue. "That crystal did something. It calmed the vines. Can we use it?" Valari nodded. "Yes, but not to fight, to finish what was left undone." Corvin raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She opened her eyes. "The forest needs a link, a voice. That's what I was born to be, but I was never given the chance." Corvin understood. "You're going to become the link?" Valari stepped toward the statue. It's the only way. Suddenly a roar echoed through the cavern. The earth shook. Corvin's scanner buzzed. Incoming mass, big, fast. It's the heart root again. You didn't destroy it. You only slowed it down. Valari turned to him. That roar wasn't anger, that was fear. It knows what I'm about to do. Corvin held his rifle tight. If it breaks through, I'll hold it off. Valari stepped into the center of the roots, placing both hands on the glowing crystal, in the statue's grip. I need time, she said. Just a little. Above, the trees cracked. The jungle split open like a mouth. The heart root rose, dragging pieces of the forest with it. It had changed. Bigger now. No longer just bark and vine. It had bones in its body. Armor from wrecked ships. Pieces of old weapons. It had been learning from every fallen creature it absorbed. And now it wanted to finish what it started. Below, Valari's body began to glow brighter. Roots reached toward her, but didn't grab her. They curled, like hands waiting for her command. Her voice filled the chamber, not loud, not shouted, but soft and sure. I was given to you in fear, now I return by choice. I will not be your sacrifice, I will be your heart. The crystal lit up completely. A pulse of light shot into the roots, then upward. Above, the heart root screamed. Corvin stood between the beast and the cavern's edge. His rifle fired again and again, but the monster didn't stop. It lunged. Massive, arms of vines swinging. Corvin leapt aside, rolled, and pulled out a plasma grenade. Try this, Barkface. He threw it. The explosion lit the forest like fire in the sky. The heart root staggered, and then the ground split. A beam of blue light shot up from below. Valari rose from the center of the cavern, lifted by glowing roots. Her body shimmered, her eyes pure white blue. The heart root paused. It remembered her now, not as prey, not as prisoner, but as its heir. Valari raised her hand. The jungle froze, every vine, every leaf, even the wind, all still. Then her voice, gentle, powerful, spoke a single word in the old Valari language. Breathe. The heart root shivered. Its massive body cracked, then split. Vines uncoiled. The faces trapped in its bark faded. And the beast collapsed, like a dying tree in slow motion. Gone. Corvin ran to her as she floated down, the light fading from her eyes. She collapsed into his arms. I did it, she whispered. You sure did, he said, holding her close. You calmed a planet. No, she murmured. I just reminded it who we are. All around them the forest changed. Leaves turned gold. The soil stopped pulsing, and, in the wind, a sound. Soft, warm, almost like a sigh of relief. Corvin carried her back to the surface. The jungle didn't fight him this time. It opened. Roots moved aside. Branches bent. Flowers bloomed where he walked. Not as a threat, but as a friend. For the first time in years, the forest was quiet. Not because it was hunting, not because it was angry, but because it was at peace. The sky above Girella turned golden as the last vines retreated into the earth. Trees straightened, flowers bloomed, leaves opened like eyes blinking in the sunlight, and in the center of the clearing, Valari stood barefoot, skin glowing softly, breathing slow and steady. No longer trembling, no longer hiding. She was not a prisoner now, not a lost child. She was what she was always meant to be, the voice of the jungle. Corvin sat nearby, arms resting on his knees, watching her. His body ached from the battle. His gear was burned, his rifle half melted. But his heart? It was light. She's different now, he thought. Not just free, but reborn. Valari turned to him slowly, her silver white hair brushing her shoulders. It's over, she said softly. Corvin gave a tired smile. You sure? No more roots trying to choke us out of nowhere? She smiled back. They remember now. The forest remembers. It doesn't need to fight anymore. He looked up at the trees. Good. Because I'm all out of grenades. She laughed, a real laugh. The first he had heard from her, it was small, gentle, but it was beautiful. Later, they stood together at the edge of the jungle. In the distance, a dropship flew in, cutting across the sky. The signal tower had worked. Help was coming. But something in Valari's eyes said she wasn't going anywhere. Corvin noticed. "You're not coming with me," he said. She nodded. "This is my place now. It called me back, and now it listens." He looked down. "I figured." She stepped closer, her voice quiet. "You don't have to stay. You've done more than I ever expected." He shrugged. "I didn't save you to feel good. I saved you because you screamed, and no one else listened." Valari looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "I want to give you something." Before he could ask what, she stepped forward and hugged him. Not a soft hug, not a nervous one, but a strong, warm, soul-deep embrace. The kind that says, "Thank you without words," the kind that says you changed me, the kind that says I won't forget you ever. Corvin held her back, feeling the calm in her heartbeat. The glow in her skin pulsed once and then faded, soft and peaceful. When she pulled back, her eyes shimmered. Not from power, from emotion. "I thought I'd die in silence," she whispered. "But you reminded me I was worth being heard." Corvin smiled. "And you reminded me there's still good out here." A pause. Then Valari reached into a pouch at her side and placed something in his hand. It was a tiny vine, curled like a bracelet. It was warm, alive, gentle. "It's part of the forest," she said. "It remembers you now, too. Won't it choke me in my sleep?" She laughed. "No, it listens to you now." Corvin wrapped it around his wrist. The vine tightened just slightly, then pulsed softly like a heartbeat. "I'll take care of it," he said. "I know," she replied, "because you took care of me." As the dropship landed, wind kicking up dust and petals, Corvin walked toward it. At the ramp, he turned one last time. Valari stood at the edge of the trees, glowing gently. Vines curled behind her like wings. She waved once. He saluted. And then the ship lifted off. From high above, Corvin looked down at Shirella. The jungle no longer looked like a trap. It looked like a home. Back on the surface, Valari sat beneath a tree, older than the tower, older than the war. Its roots curled gently beneath her. She placed her hand on the soil and whispered, "We're listening again." And for the first time in centuries, the forest whispered back.